Welcome back to the Roundup. I have a lot of stories for you today, and they're pretty damn interesting. D4 has been suffering from really prolonged attacks, not just over the weekend, but also even more recently. In fact, yesterday, as I record this video, we've got Guild Wars 2 trying to be a bit more competitive in the MMO market. Trader's Token in World of Warcraft. We saw those data mined assets. They gave us a spook, and they have now been used for the first time, as well as some stuff going on with Yakuza, a gamer who did something very silly in order to basically fully go Karen on the president of Nintendo, which is mad, and Stadia living again. Somehow, and maybe in a way where it actually might provide some value to at least some of us. And by the way, today's the 28th. The 29th is the final day of the 20% off sale on Steam for our game. So if you would like to buy The Pale Beyond, the game which we all, which we developed, you can do that. It'll be 20% off. Right now, we've got just shy of 1,000 reviews in Steam. We've got 900 and something, and overall, those 900 and something are at 91%. So we're all pretty thrilled. Of course, a narrative, survival-themed role-playing game, very much inspired by the heroic age of Antarctic Expedition and those pretty badass, crazy motherfuckers who just pulled off some mad stuff. So, if you want to check out the game, you can do so and get 20% off until tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about D4. So, the Blizzard DDoS outage, this is a pretty simple story. It's just that it's quite rough, and when you're dealing with a game that has got hardcore characters, that can make it even more rough. So they had about 12 hours of downtime across the weekend. They finally got a handle on that by Sunday, but they've actually got DDoSed again yesterday. It's one of those things, you've got that game coming up, Immortals of Avium, or Avium, whatever it's called, where their marketing line is to become a battle magi of the Triarch and stop the Everwar. Actually, the Everwar's already here. It's cybersecurity, and good luck to any of the poor bastards who have got to make that work, because it's definitely a hard job. So yes, these DDoS attacks have happened, and when they can happen, disconnects can happen, and that is especially bad if you have a hardcore character. Blizzard do have a planned solution to this hardcore character, dying because of an internet issue problem. The thing is, though, I think it's coming in Season 2 of Diablo 4. Season 1's coming out in a bit, so that's definitely quite rough. I really think that should be a thing in Season 1, if it is, humanly possible. Basically, the way this thing will work is it's like a resource. If you have one of them in your bags and you disconnect, it will be used and it will take you back to town. One of those tricky things. Is it fair that somebody loses their heroic character because of a DC? Especially because some dickhead decided to DDoS servers and just, yes, pain in the ass for Blizzard, but also pain in the ass for people who bought the game and would just like to play it, actually. It sucks if somebody loses a hardcore character from that, especially if it's level 80. They'd be playing it for a stupid number of hours, right? That's awful. I think, though, a lot of the community seems to say that it is better almost to not have protection, but keep up the integrity of a hardcore character never having died, because if there was some sort of you can inundate customer service, maybe that's just a workload Blizzard doesn't want to take on. Maybe a few people being able to, socially engineer themselves getting their character back when they really shouldn't. Maybe people think that would invalidate the hardcore leaderboard and sort of damage the integrity of the game. To me, though, it does just seem insane that it's a thing that Blizzard will allow happen to their customers, where a disconnect, even one caused by Blizzard, just means a character's lost, and that's it, you're screwed. Seems insane to me. Now, another thing that was kind of insane is a lot of how Guild Wars 2 has ran for a long time. This is a game that has had notable content droughts, seriously notable. Now, that said, there have been updates for End of Dragons, which is the current expansion. Certainly, if you're a World of Warcraft player, this is not a subscription MMO, you're not getting updates like that. I suppose the difference, though, is that, yes, World of Warcraft has a cash shop, but this is a full-on cash for gems shop where, Guild Wars 2 is heavily monetized around grinding. Anyhow, the thing that's interesting, though, is their new expansion has just been announced, and it's actually coming out August 22nd this year. Yeah. Now, End of Dragons came out February 2020, so they're getting a new expansion a year and 2/3 right? After the most recent one. That is not normal for this game. Now, this may not be a normal expansion, though, because looking at this, they say release 1, release 2, release 3. And they basically say that this will have its own self-contained story with its own resolution that'll, play out at launch. Later releases then will have that launch arc be concluded until the rest of the expansion story, with more features and updates across the game being planned for a release each quarter. So I think this is actually Guild Wars 2 that is seeing itself on quite more competitive footing. You see, the thing with this game previously was, it didn't really produce, I think, the big numbers that NCSoft had kind of hoped for. Certainly when you look at the NCSoft, like their quarterly filings, they actually do break down their revenue on a per game basis. And it's just like, man, Lineage and Lineage 2, they're making so much money. And compared to those, Guild Wars was really tiny. We do know that ArenaNet had a real big other project that they had been working on, but the company faced really big layoffs seemingly as that project was canned. It does seem then that they've actually repositioned the company as being all in on Guild Wars 2, and certainly for Guild Wars 2 players, this is a really good thing. Yeah, it just seems like their MMO is going to be a bit more healthy and stable, and that's good because it makes the rest of the industry more competitive. Speaking of that, of course, we've got World of Warcraft and its traders token. So we've all been really worried that WoW is basically going to add what amounts to the sort of, weekly or monthly rotating store that a free-to-play game may have in effect. So they added this feature called the Trading Post, and it basically has a whole bunch of cosmetic items every single month. There is currently no form of monetization to that. You get 500 of its currency per month, and then by completing challenges in-game, you can get up to 500 more, and if you complete the challenges for a month, you'll usually get some sort of big free reward as well, such as a new mount or something like that. Now, for this upcoming month, it is a Nether Drake. If you played the Burning Crusade, it's basically one of those, but it's compatible with the dragon riding system of the new expansion, which, to be honest, is really pretty cool and exciting. However, you also get a bonus of 200 traders token, and I think something kind of interesting could be going on here. So, people at the time that those assets were found, those data mined assets, thought, right, worst case scenario, these, and here they are in Wowhead, that these would be, basically bundles that you could purchase. Now, some people said, there's increments of 50. That makes absolutely no sense. In what in what thing can you buy, 500, V-Bucks, 550 V-Bucks, 600 V-Bucks. That's not how the pricing works, and that is true. I just assumed that this was Blizzard's artists just making an absolute shed load of these so that they'd always have them on hand, no matter what, in terms of business, they decided to price the different denominations at, that they would actually launch. A lot of people, though, said, okay, this could be for Twitch Prime. This could be for Twitch drops. This could be for a promotion. Something like that, included in a new, collector's edition of the game. And what they have announced is that in addition to the Trading Post actually having a lot of really good stuff next month, there's going to be a 200 traders tender bonus for completing all the things. And then I thought, oh, well, that makes complete sense. I suppose that's what these assets are for. Phew. Maybe they'll do the evil thing in the future, but at least our first evidence of this data mine stuff isn't them doing the evil thing. However, look closely. Was a 200 denomination data mined? No. And if you actually look here, this is just like 200 in a standard font, and then a generic trader's tender icon. Now it is, of course, a single trader's tender coin, which is in line with what's being used in this art. However, these data mined assets are in the patch 10.1.5 PTR build. Here's the deal though, patch 10.1.5 doesn't come out until the 11th of July, but the new traders post stuff, that refreshes along with all these rewards and the bonus tender, that refreshes at the start of July before the patch hits. So if you look at this just does look like, you essentially in your UI tool just hit the text button and it's just the default font. So this looks pretty bad. And certainly the version that's more keeping with how WoW tends to look, you would imagine they'd rather do this if they can. So the hopium, the good version of this, is that this preview isn't using the assets from the new PTR, the new public test build, because this is coming out just shy of 2 weeks after this comes out. That's what I think is happening, but who knows? who knows? They can always, of course, hit the button and add that new form of monetization to World of Warcraft if they really want to. I suppose another thing is this is a upcoming promotion. Perhaps the reason why my Blizzard contacts, I suppose whoever that person reports to, because they did reach out and say, hey, do we have I've been asked to give comment on this. Can we give any comment? I think they were essentially said, no comment at this time. Maybe it's because they didn't want to basically bust what they're currently using as a big promotion for the summer. Okay, let's move on then. Alan Wake, digital benefits, kind of interesting. Their creative director, Sam Lake, and Kyle Rowley, who is the game director, have been talking a bit more about Alan Wake 2, and specifically how it being a digital-only title is useful to them. So, they basically just say that being digital only gives them a significant number of weeks, basically additionally, for polishing. And that's because if your game is going on a disc, then it has to be playable without the patch. You will not hit certification if your Gold Master build that is, printed on the disc that will be in stores, if that doesn't run, you will not be certified by the console. So not only do they have to, I suppose, go through a less strenuous version of that whole process, it pretty much means that they're focusing on one release. You could certainly say, though, because if you're in a really big company and you have to hit console cert to, get the build on the discs, you've got to do that all ahead of production time. So, you can have your production run, and then stuff goes from the production run over to, the distributors, and then from the distributors to the stores. That actually does literally just take time. If you don't have to do that, then that is a internal milestone that doesn't have to exist. Because you could absolutely imagine accruing some technical debt and having to work on what is expedient rather than what is the long-term best decision if you've got to hit this internal milestone deadline of the Gold Master. So they're actually framing that as a good thing. Now, of course, the game still has to pass console certification, yes, but I imagine the process can be different if it is a digital-only product. And this just gives them a few more weeks. And you might think, a few more weeks? Really? Well, look at the amount of games that have came out and they have had to ship with, bugs that I don't think we can even call as oh, that's a shippable. And I know a lot of people take exception with the idea that any form of known bug can be a shippable. Look, it's just one of those things. There are realities. There are realities, and there are just times where it's if something is a bug that's extremely minor, doesn't impact the experience, doesn't impact that many players, you can probably live with that until until a first major patch or something. What we're really focusing on is stuff your Cyberpunk 2077 launches. So this can certainly give them a bit more time. It's kind of interesting. Obviously, as as PC players, we are used to we're used to this. If you're an indie developer, right, and you're working in Steam, we can just go to the Steam backend and upload a new build. Like that. So after The Pale Beyond came out, which, cough, cough, again, 20% off right now. You can check it out in Steam, link below. But after it came out, yes, we had some unanticipated bugs. The handy thing about all of that being in Steam is it just was make bug fix, go to Steam, put the file from your computer onto Steam, click upload, done. Just like you're uploading a file to Dropbox. That's what it's like, putting a new version of your game out in Steam. It really does allow you to just move in quite an agile fashion. It's just not like that for some other storefronts and, and some other consoles and stuff. As a developer is really pretty awesome about Steam. It just does give you quite a lot of power over that, which is great. Anyway, I think just an interesting thing for the developers of Alan Wake, and you do just have to think, as time goes on, we're going more digital anyway. When will it get to the stage where maybe some of these companies are feeling that physical just isn't worth the effort? You get a lower cut, and those people, if they don't buy physical, will they buy digital? If push comes to shove and they want the game, probably, especially now that internet, broadly speaking, is quite a bit better. An interesting situation. Next then, Yakuza. Bit of an unfortunate thing. The series got a full release on GOG, which is really nice. You can basically go pick up the DRM-free version of a whole bunch of this, but there is some weirdness because not only DRM was removed, also a bunch of credits. So Lab 42 and QLOC, or QLOC, I suppose, they're both porting houses. They built the Steam ports that are seemingly the versions that are going up to GOG. But their credits have been they've been removed, which is really strange. But there's also loads of missing names from the credits as well. And when you look at the font and spacing, it's really weird because, like, you know, here's our producer. Like, you know, the spacing's the same. It's really bizarre. This whole thing is weird. It's like they've just been deleted. They've been deleted, and no, you know, it hasn't automatically changed its spacing. It's really bizarre. Hang on, is he the... Oh, fuck, he left. And then one of the really weird things is one of the original series creators, Toshiro Nagoshi, he's been removed. He's been removed from the credits. And like, I just think this is what Yakuza did to him. Like, he starts off like regular dude. By the end, here he is in a golden chair. There you go. But it's interesting because he left in 2021, actually opened up Nagoshi Studio under NetEase. He brought several staff. So some people could maybe see this as a like, oh, you left. Out of the credits you go. Who really knows? It's the sort of thing where I don't think that him being left out of the credits is going to pose any real issue for him, given, you know, he's Yakuza man and everyone knows that. But still, an odd situation. It makes you wonder why, and makes you wonder if there is any, like, corporate pettiness. I suppose in the way that maybe some people would think of, like, the handling of Kojima, you know, at Konami and how all that went. Anyway, we do have Stadia living on as YouTube playables. And I've got to be honest with you, this actually could be cool. So Stadia, its problem, like its technology was great. And it's the thing we know about Google. Google are really good at building utilities at scale, and they're really good at killing them when they don't work. But take YouTube. YouTube is like quite a marvel. It works really well. Like, have you tried using some other video streaming sites and they just don't work as well as YouTube? They're really good at delivering. And it's just like that with Stadia. Like, Stadia was really good from a technological perspective. It's just the product it was wrapped around was absolutely moronic. Well, we have a new thing here, a report by the Wall Street Journal that they're seemingly trying to use their streaming tech without sort of saddling it with the whole Stadia name and business model. So they've basically the journal, that is, they've seen an internal email detailing the existence of YouTube playables, and they're designed to have players stream games to a, you know, mobile or PC via YouTube. So I suppose instead of clicking a YouTube video, you could actually click on a game. I mean, imagine if that was just added to YouTube Premium. Wouldn't that be honestly bizarre? And I mean, I would really struggle to see it hitting critical mass. But I think there could be some uses for this. So the system is in internal testing where employees can give feedback. They're starting with a very low-end game. Apparently Stack Bounce is the game from the App Store that's the first real test. And it's like, I look at Stack Bounce and I'm like, what? Because it's, you know, like this type of mobile game. It's that with an average rating of 1.6 stars and 10,000 downloads. Like, what? Now, the thing is with the Stadia tech, like, we know it can do a full AAA game, right? You can run Cyberpunk on Stadia. So really, who knows? I suppose the one thing that was interesting about Stadia, though, was the idea that, let's just say you were watching an advert for a video game on YouTube, and there actually could be a play button on that advert. So imagine, you know, you're there with your mouse and keyboard, a new PC game is trying to advertise itself to you, you can hit the play button, your YouTube window, you know, expands, and, oh, look at this, now I'm playing a bit of a demo for a game, and I can do that instantly. Maybe you're watching YouTube on your TV, which actually is something I find myself doing more now, and I do that on my PS5. Imagine if you could just go and play a game demo on that. Like, that actually is a useful thing. That's a way where I would use Stadia, and a big games company could actually get value from me, value from Google, because it would just be a form of more effective marketing where I can actually try the product, right? So I actually hope that something like that does happen. It's funny. I remember, and it's not in today's document, but Microsoft talking about some xCloud stuff. I think about how, like, or it's not called xCloud anymore, but their streaming is kind of like, it's kind of like done at a loss. It's not really something that people are like actually playing a humongous amount of, but they do find people actually use it to peruse and sample games, because you can just instantly sample the game. So this is really, I think, a great use case for that. And then finally, this is just a wild story. Some fella decided to buy Nintendo stock so he could complain to the president of Nintendo. So this person actually got their question in on Nintendo's latest shareholder meeting. The company has blatantly given the boys in Splatoon the cold shoulder, and I would like to see some solid improvement. And he had significant concerns over the male-coded Inklings and Octolings in Splatoon 3, that they just have not had the same level of support of hairstyles, profile icons, or emotes that the female-coded ones have got, and they're very angry about this. The complaint continued for a while, to the point where the president of Nintendo interrupted him to point out that the question was getting too long. The person then ignored that, and the result is that Furukawa just thanked him for sharing his opinion, and then the call went on. And it then turns out that this isn't just like, you know, the way like the entire cybersecurity and IT industry is basically built by furries, and that's how they're able to afford fursuits, because they have ridiculously high-paying jobs a lot of the time. It's like, it is a bit of a joke, like with internet artists, that it's like, yeah, if you can, if your art style is going to appeal to a certain niche of like software engineer furry, you are going to get like a $4,000 commission. You know, you know, who knows? Or it's a thing, right? So I would have assumed it was like that. Somebody who just has a lot of money and they could buy a lot of stock. No, turns out this person was completely strapped for cash. So they purchased Nintendo Switch OLEDs with a credit card and then sold them at a loss in order to buy Nintendo shares in order to be able to attend the conference. That's a harebrained scheme, all for some customization options. Yeah, I know. Baffling. Hopefully unlike today's episode, which, I mean, hey, maybe it's been baffling and fun for you. I've enjoyed it. Certainly had weird stories. As my parting thing, if you'd like to support us, the best way to do that is to purchase the Pale Beyond, because, you know, when you do that, well, Steam does get their cut, and then we got a recoup with their publisher, which is, of course, all well and good, because they did literally pay for our studio to exist for 2 years, so they actually very much do deserve their cut. That's the thing about when you're working with indie publishers. It's actually like a good win-win, and, you know, love to work with them again. We'll see how everything goes. But yes, the best way to support us is to purchase the Pale Beyond over on Steam. It's currently 20% off, so it's a pretty good time to do that. All right, that's it for me. I will see you next time.